So Paolo, before we get to the trading specifically and all that kind of stuff, which is stuff that everybody here wants to hear. Um, give us a little idea, about yourself. Number one, I want to know like what is it about St. Lucci and what is it about this community? I know you've been here for a while, but what is it about this particular community that you feel like it's home?
Well, I've been part actually of this community for a really long time. I mean, I think I was even there before Jesus got there, before that cooperation started. So I've been in incognito till the past year. But as you know, I started posting more this past year, sharing my views, and through
Yeah.
that, really, I started to get to know everyone on the community. And I've been part of a lot of communities, trading communities, and everything. And this is the only one that I really get a sense of that supportive nature that I think is really important when you're trading. So that's what
Yeah.
really stands.
Yeah, I think we started talking. I don't know what made you get vocal, I guess, because you've been here for a while and like, give us an idea of your growth. Was this a recent thing? Have you always traded this kind of size? You know, Give us an idea of where the history was.
I've always been a fan of big trades. I
Clearly.
think generally my philosophy on the markets is that it doesn't make sense to go invest in a market if you're expecting to make 5, 6%. That's kind of ridiculous to me. I mean, I'm in it to generate wealth
Yep.
for myself and my clients. So I dabbled in big size previously. That didn't work out very well.
Yeah.
So, it's a journey to where you can get comfortable. But I think I'm at a point now where the size doesn't really bother me as much as it used to. It's
Yeah.
just constrained by my capital at the moment. So the
Got you.
more I get, the larger I'll go.
Got you. So you have investors. You do have investors. You do trade for
Yeah,
investors.
that's right.
Okay, and they want this. They want the same risk profile. I mean, as you, because I mean, clearly we're watching you in here and take some serious eyes on. I would imagine that's tough to explain to some of these investors, especially ones that they don't really fuck with the markets. I'm sure these people are like they know how you get down and they believe in you.
Yeah, so all my clients are basically personal friends. They know me.
Yeah,
They know how I trade. They
yeah,
trust my views. Also, I get paid on performance only. So when I tell them to sit in cash, they listen. It doesn't bother them.
yeah.
I see Bullshark has asked a question. I started my own company in 2010 in London to manage money.
Yeah.
It's been kind of an interesting journey to say the least. It was also my first exposure to the finance industry, which, as I learned, can be a very ugly place.
Yeah, man.
um, and yeah, so I mean, we went through some. We started the business with some guy that was a banker, known to our family for a while, and things didn't work out with him. So I took charge of the business and restructured it in a way that I thought made sense. Obviously, the way I operate makes a lot of people uncomfortable. So it's something I really have to explain. I have to explain how and why I do things.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
and the people that catch on, they tend to stay with me because they like it. They enjoy the ride.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. All right. So I guess what's the before we get into like specific trades and everything, like what's the goal for you? I mean, you said you're out here trying to build wealth. Is it a number you're chasing after? What does it for you? What motivates you, to put on the kind of size you do and to chase after those big trades?
I don't know if it's a number. The kick for me is seeing my analysis work out.
Got it.
In trading, money is always a byproduct of of trading, right? So if you do your analysis right, money comes anyway. So to me, that's
Mm,
not really the focal point, or it used to be,
yeah.
but that's when I wasn't, trading successfully. Now that I'm trading successfully, it's more about
Right.
focusing on my process and decision making.
Okay, all right. So let's get into some of the friggin' crazy, some of the crazy shit that you're up to, man. Everybody wants to, everybody kind of wants to know a couple things. I mean, I think everybody wants like a little breakdown of that, that really, really large put order that you kind of based a trade off of, and I think we can start there, and then just kind of give everybody an idea of how you set that one up. We'll take a look at some charts, and then we'll talk a little bit about how you manage some of that risk here for some of these guys, and then we'll talk more big picture stuff. So break down that massive freaking that put you went after, and then some of the troubles you had after.
Yeah, so the way I trade is I always look for turning points, and turning points is just simply because of the fact that I use the mark indicators as my bread and butter
Got it.
technical analysis. So, one of his sayings is that a trend doesn't end because smart sellers enter the market. It ends because of an exhaustion of buying. So he developed basically these indicators that pinpoint, the 13 count and the 9 count as possible trend reversal areas. So that's mainly what I look for. The trade on the S&P was something that I've been building in my mind for a while. This completely insane blast off rally that we saw since September 2019
Right.
didn't look very sustainable to me. Everyone was getting very complacent about potential risks out there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had 4 companies on the S&P trading at a valuation above $1 trillion. To me, that was clearly, Then I saw that photo of Trump with that paper in front of him with the companies. I said, okay, we must be close to a top here.
Yeah. So you do some
And
fundamentals then. I mean, you do a little bit of fundamentals then. Yeah.
yeah, well, I mean, if you can call it fundamentals, it's
True.
mostly. 'Cause, I mean, it's difficult to gauge sentiment, right? But sentiment plays a big part in it. One of the things that I like to do is I like to look at magazine covers. So
Okay.
those are great contrarian indicators, and it's a useful tip that I've been using over the years. So if you look at Barron's cover, for example, they had Dow 30,000, and I think the Economist cover had Tech's huge bull run, and that literally pinpointed the high of the Nasdaq. So these are great indicators that I like to use as well.
Got you.
So both,
Got you.
I'm 34.
34. All right. Everybody's gonna be like, damn, it's a young age. I'm 37 myself. Okay, so give us a little bit of process on that big short. I guess what was the process? How do you get into the size that you're able to get into? Do you add in at these certain places? And or are you waiting for these reversal sort of niners here to just kind of go balls to the walls, or give us an idea?
Yeah, so I started by looking at a chart of the S&P, the
Sure.
weekly chart, which had a big 13 on it. So
Got it.
that was the first thing that caught my interest.
Got it.
Then the daily chart started printing 13s. On the weekly chart as well, we had massive divergence on the RSI. So these are things that I look at as well.
Sure.
And then I started charting SPY options
Ah,
themselves.
okay.
So this was actually what led me to the March 300 puts, because I think charting the options themselves showed the same signals on the weekly chart and the daily chart and the 4-hour chart. So that's when I started scaling in.
Got it.
I
Got
chose
it.
March as well because March is this March is the 11th year anniversary of the 2009 low. So I
Okay.
was kind of expecting something to happen within March.
Got it. Got it. So you're talking about the March, the monthly expiration, right?
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
one.
Okay. So where did you start scaling in on this? I'm assuming like at a couple of
So
bucks, no?
yeah, my earliest entry was about $2. My
Yeah.
lowest entry was 64 cents.
So exactly. So yeah, because this thing was worthless, right? I mean, nobody's looking at this thing anyway when you
Yeah,
started to
exactly.
pick it up. So there's no vol on this thing, right? Everybody, I'm assuming too, the market was still going higher at this point anyway. So you start
Yeah, it
picking up a
was.
couple of these things. At what point were you like, all right, fuck it, let's play some of this. I know there was some big orders here too. I mean, it looks like some volume started to kick up in these things. 20,000, 40,000 right here, and then all of a sudden this thing shot to $5. So at that point, how heavy were you in this thing?
I had a bunch of orders that I executed over several days, so I don't really remember now how much. I think I invested about 1.5 million in
Sure.
these. No, am I saying no? Less than that.
Okay.
It must have been about 600,000. I bought in these options.
600 grand. Okay. So your
Yeah,
average price
600.
must have been probably around two. I mean, after you were all said and
That's right.
done,
Yeah,
right?
about 170.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. All right. And then, give us an idea of these pullbacks, man. Like, give us an idea of how you react to some of this shit. I mean, because I know how volatile these options are. I mean, are you doing hedging while, you get some of these tops? Are you shaving some off? Are you adding? What is it? How are you managing that position as you're looking for that sort of big sell, that big capitulation?
Well, in retrospect, I managed it very badly because I sold out of all my options really early.
Yep. Yep.
Even though during my my analysis of the whole thing, I mentioned that I thought they could get to $20, $30.
Yep. Yep.
So that picture was in my mind. But when you have such size on,
Yes.
oftentimes you really want to dump it fast and book the profits, especially with options, because these things can go from worth 1 million one day to zero the next. So
To zero the next, and your thesis could still be correct. So this goes for the folks in here when you're trying to make these sort of big swing trades. Remember that you're always in a situation where you make remember your mind is always what's the word I'm looking for? It's being conditioned. It's being conditioned to a certain type of environment. So when the time comes for you to execute and drop some big money and go for a big trade, your conditioning just kind of creeps out on you, man. So it doesn't matter if you're Paolo, if you're me, if you're Jesus, if you're whoever. we all kind of have these same issues. It doesn't matter what level, it doesn't matter what size of an account you are. And in reality, we have to look at it realistically, right? I mean, this option goes to $5 and then ends up back to probably where most people got in. And now you're looking at a $20, $30 freaking price. And all of this is perception right here in the middle. Nothing has changed really, but you might've got a big, huge, bloody freaking rally. And, you kind of get squeezed on these things. I mean, take a look at most short calls for the last, several weeks. They've been working down to the pennies. And then all of a sudden today, going into the close, boom, everybody gets fucking blown out. So we get conditioned pretty quickly, man. So, okay. So what did you get out of these, Paolo?
I got out, I think, at a price of about 6 to 7.
Got it. Okay. So you're burying those at around 6 to 7. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I guess now give us an idea of the times where things got a little bit rough and you kind of maybe lost the bigger picture idea that you had initially.
Yeah, that's right.
And you got kind of caught in the sort of just the day-to-day sort of ticks. So, like, was there a moment where that happened to you? And give us a picture of what that looked like.
So I was, I think that it was a Thursday when I started to see some exhaustion signals intraday on my the market indicators on the S&P.
Yep.
That's when I started buying ES contracts, and as the price went lower, I kept buying, and then we got that final flush down, and I got kind of screwed.
Right. So that was this.
Yeah.
Was that this right here, or was that this right? That might have been this right here. Yeah, on March 9th right here.
Yeah.
Yep, March 9th right here. Yep. So you got
Was
really
that March
heavy.
9th?
Was it March 9th? Anybody want
No,
to
it was before that. It might have been in Feb.
Before that, right. So it might have been this one right here, the 28th.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Somewhere around here. And I remember, so you had some really big size on, And, you know, what ended up happening there?
Well, I was, you know, as much as you want to avoid these moments, they
Yep.
always kind of keep coming back. I guess
Yep.
it's part of the game, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Managing these moments is something that I think I've gotten better at.
Yeah.
I mean, I've learned now if my analysis tells me something, and I basically have to put my emotional mind on hold
Yep.
and kind of defer to my analysis and trust that it was a decision that made sense at the time. I must have my levels that I know I'm wrong, levels that I know that I have to get out.
Yep.
So I'm always watching those. But for me, a trade is it's not only about price; it's also about time.
Yep.
So you know, obviously, the faster trade works out in your favor, the higher the chances are that it'll be profitable. So that's something that I'm watching.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Okay.
yeah.
So I guess give everybody a little bit of advice on how you've been able to grow emotionally speaking, because I know you and I connect on the DMs, and we connect outside of this world, and we often have these kind of conversations that I kind of want to give everyone else just a little bit of insight or a little bit of window into, you know, some of the conversations that we have, some of the deeper conversations that we have. So can you break down just a little bit of advice on how, you know, how you're able, is it just awareness? Is it now just more awareness for you, and you're like, okay, I'm feeling this way, I'm thinking this way, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z? Is there some action behind it? Like, how does it work for you?
For me, I mean, I always say trading is as much about knowing yourself as it is about knowing the markets.
No doubt.
Actually, if you know yourself better than you know the markets, you have a higher chance of success. Because I mean, often the biggest obstacles are ourselves, our emotions, and our minds. So it's still a process I'm trying to learn. Um, I think I remember the first time this happened to me. Actually, I had a massive bet on the pound. This was, I think, in 2014, and
Okay.
it went the wrong way, in a big way.
Yep.
Um, I basically handled that by dragging my girlfriend out and getting wasted on tequila, but that's not
Yep.
something I think is a good advice. So
Yep.
I would suggest the best advice I can give is develop a system and trust the system, because the system is there to make sure that things work when your mind doesn't work anymore. And when you start getting hit with emotions and you start watching P&L and price,
Mm-hmm.
your instinct tells you to do something, and that's usually the wrong thing. So make
Yeah.
sure you have a process that you trust.
Okay. Okay. All right. Let's open up some questions here to Paolo. Whatever you guys want to sit there and ask him. Paolo, my experience in the last 2-3 weeks, bro, I have just been up and down the worst roller coaster, and I missed the short, and then I missed this freaking rally. So emotionally speaking, like I remember how this feels from back in like 2017 and 2016, when I was really, really going through like just a rough patch where you feel like you just, you know, shit's not going well and all that kind of stuff. So that's like where I'm at right now. All of a sudden I'll be up, you know, great. I'll be having a great month. And then the next day I'll try to rip into something. I'll get biased on something. Stuff moves so quickly, and boom, shit'll rip back in my face here. So that's kind of where I'm at. Give us an idea of, you know, a time where you've been in this same place, and, you know, what did that look like? How'd you get yourself out of it?
That was easy. That was last year for me. Last year was it was a year where you know, usually trading is quite cyclical, right? So
Yeah.
uh, within a year you can have good periods and bad periods, and you know that. But last year was just um, I caught the big short in December 2018,
Right.
and then every decision I've made after that was just wrong. I mean,
Okay.
it felt like everything I touched was turning to shit. Sorry for my language, but
No, 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 no. It's all right,
it,
man. I
it was
swear.
yeah, it was really tough. I mean, it got to a point where I was thinking of throwing in the towel and saying, you know, I got to find a real job. What am I doing with my life?
Wow. And that was last year. That was straight up last
That
year
was
for
last
you.
year. Yeah, yeah.
Yo, you know what I mean? Like, guys, I really want you to pay attention to this shit. You know, the thoughts that we all have, like, it gets pretty extreme, man. So give us an idea. So you were at this point, you wanted to just give it up. What made you keep pushing? And then what was the stone that turned? Like, what was the tide that just shifted? You know what I mean?
So I tend to do really well in volatile markets. I
Yeah.
do really badly in trending markets. So
Got it. Got it. So
when
this
it's
is your time. This is your
it's
time.
my
So
time. Yeah.
so you kind of capitulated on this market that just kept just kind of denying you of who you are and your identity, correct? I mean,
That's
because
right,
this your
completely.
yeah, this is who you are. So you're waiting for this time to come around. Wow, man. Wow, man. And guys, like, realize like how close he possibly was to not even catching this move altogether. Correct, Paolo? I mean,
That's right. That's right.
shit, man. That's it's wild, man. All right. So what was the stone that turned? What was the tide? What shifted?
So it was two things. It was read a lot about market history because everything that happens has happened before. So one of the things that really caught my interest is that every year ending with a nine at the end precedes a trend change,
Wow.
which is actually, yeah, that's really something that actually put things
Wow.
into perspective. I mean, going into 2020, and also big trends tend to happen at the beginning of the year, right? So, I mean, when I
Right.
was talking about shorting the market, I think I mentioned a few times that investors are using the playbook of 2019. So I knew that the scope was there for that move to happen, and I said, if I don't swing now, I'm gonna regret it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I took my shot, and it's been working well.
So how did you rally the troops behind you, man? I mean, obviously you had to have some investors that maybe weren't that happy with you, or maybe they kind of just drifted off, or maybe you lost touch with them. Like, how did you rally the troops and just tell them, like, yo, this is gonna be it? Ride for, let's get ready. Like, how much preparation, I guess, would you say you did here to make this happen?
Well, it was, I mean, for when I trade with my clients, the options are really a small part of their account because
Sure.
obviously with such massive leverage, you can make great returns by putting very small capital at risk.
Of course, of course.
The majority of that was my own capital, so it wasn't
Nice.
very hard to rally myself to get excited.
Nice. Okay. Okay. So you've always kind of been okay. You've always kind of control. You've always sort of you've had this little cushion, correct? I mean, am I correct in assuming that? Like you always got a chip in a chair, right? I mean, you haven't gotten to the point where you were just ready to fucking blow out. I mean, you were talking about going to get a job, but was that, was how real was that, I guess?
Well, I mean, if I'm being honest with myself,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's not really very real, is it? I mean, I mean, I really enjoy markets. I love the
Yeah.
fact that you get graded on a day-to-day basis based on how you perform. There's no bias. It's
Yeah.
all up to you. So,
Wow, wow, man.
yeah.
But at the same time, you kind of lost your purpose, right? It's like if you couldn't define yourself by your analysis being correct, I mean, shit, for the last 3 years, I would venture to say, you probably weren't that happy of a person, correct? Yes, no, maybe. I
That's
mean, I
right.
don't know.
That's
I'm
right.
just throwing it out there.
That's right. That's right. 100%. I mean, because this stuff spills over, and if you don't have a clear barrier between the markets and who you are,
Yeah,
that kind of tends to seep through, and then you
yeah.
start thinking that shit, every decision I make is wrong, or
Yeah,
whatever I
man.
whatever I touch turns bad, or what's going on. It's hard to kind of brush that off when it's been going on for such a long time.
Right, right, man. So I guess like not to get too personal, and then we'll take all these questions here. You got a bunch of great questions here, so we'll start throwing it out there. And remember, this is only for the people in the chat room. Like, we're not posting this thing on YouTube or anything. I mean, unless you want us to or whatever. But this is literally only for us, and we can kind of get a little bit more personal here. So yo, those last 3 years where you know you've sort of lacked purpose. Like, what is your life? What was your life? What did your life look like? You know what I'm saying? Like, was it, you know, were you, because you couldn't derive that purpose from the market or whatever, like what did your relationships look like? What did your daily life look like? You know, so kind of give a window into what that looked like. Like, what did it
Yeah,
get
it
that
was,
bad where you were like angry at everybody and you were just
no,
fucking
I
pissed
don't.
off out there?
I don't get angry at
Okay. Okay.
at people. I get really angry at myself. So,
Okay. Okay.
but
So
yeah,
you kind of do a lot of self what is the word, right? You beat yourself up, right?
yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Got it. Got
yeah,
it.
that's right. I implode. I don't explode. That's so true.
You implode, you don't explode. Okay, so does that mean you go into a shell and shit where you're just not going out, you're not really talking to anybody? Do people
Um,
notice it, or you know, are
no,
you
people
just
don't
walking
notice
around
it.
just being cool? People don't know. They have no idea. Yeah.
They have no, they have no idea. No,
No fucking
uh,
idea, yo.
no, they have no idea of the darkness inside.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
it,
well,
man.
I mean, I've generally not been the type to kind of take out my troubles on other people or
Sure.
publicize what I'm going through anyway. So
Sure, sure. Okay, all right, man. So let's throw out some questions here. So Stephen, here we got a question here saying you were slightly early to the put trade back in late Jan. You said you were going to stop out at the highs, but you didn't and averaged down, if I remember correctly, which turned out to be the right move. Could you talk more about your thinking there? What made you so confident? I remember this. I remember this in the chat room where you were definitely early. People thought you were fucking nuts. They were like, "Yo, why is
yeah,
this guy coming in here throwing out 50 lots of this shit?" It's like we always get a Skreek in the chat room. And for a shout out to everybody who knows Skreek and who taught, you know, and it's always
yeah,
futures guys, yo. It's always fucking futures guys, man. It literally is always futures guys that are this rambunctious fucking crowd, man. They just come in here slinging, and they want their position to be fucking known. So give us that. Could you talk about your thinking there, or what made you so confident on the double down? You know, back in late Jan.
So you know, my analysis was obviously the mark was pointing to exhaustion on the upside, but really everywhere I looked, it was sentiment was going mad. I mean, you had this crazy blast off rally in Tesla.
Yep, yep,
You
yep.
had that, you know, Bloomberg article on Wall Street Bets, which means a lot of retail money was already in the market. You had crazy stocks like this SPCE that everyone was trading.
Yeah, it's
I think
space. Yeah, the shit
space.
went
Yeah, that's
from $5 to 40. Tesla goes from, you know, the $400 breakout to $940, and you know, I get caught in shorts. I think all of us got caught in fucking shorts. People get blown out. You know, it's short options. People get absolutely fucking blown out, and you know, we're in that market. So continue, man. Continue. What was it?
Yeah, so one of the things that I also pointed out was the fact that um, the Fed was withdrawing liquidity, and I kept pulling or showing the Fed repo chart of the Fed's repo holdings was clearly declining, and no one seemed to be paying attention to that for some reason.
Got
But
it.
that's, I mean, you know, these markets are really all driven by liquidity, right? So if the Fed shuts off the hose, then you know that something is coming, and that something's not good.
Okay. Okay. So you kind of had all these things, and you were just like, "No, I'm sticking with this." So you double down up there. There's another question here. Did you factor in the coronavirus in China in your short position at all, or did that happen? Did that just come out? Like that obviously came out a couple of weeks later. Like, how did the coronavirus and the news of the coronavirus shift or influence your positions? Did it make things crazier for you? I felt like the market got fucking wild there, and we weren't as ready as maybe we thought we were for some of the ranges that we'd see. So I guess, how did you factor in coronavirus there into this whole short thesis?
It was always a risk that I was mentioning. You know, the
Yeah.
markets are not correctly discounting this.
Yep. Yep.
Then again, did I think it was going to be as big as it's become?
Yep.
No, definitely not.
Yep.
But you know, it's the same thing as a market sell-off. That's probably why I got caught out on the long side as well. Like, as much as I could envision the market selling off,
Yep.
I couldn't envision them selling off this much. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I got one question for you. I mean, I've seen you oftentimes take a good amount of risk, and then you'll manage to average down to those futures positions. You'll work your way back to flat. I mean, I remember last night, right? I mean, you were down what, 450 on that trade, and then came back, pulled out 50 grand, and then boom, we hit, I think, 2,600 on the ES. You covered the rest of it and then went to fucking bed. So,
Yeah.
so like, did you double down at any point in that position and average in when you were down
Yeah,
455?
so the thing with ES is a bit complicated because I trade with banks and the futures trading desks are closed at night. So
Right.
that was one of the reasons why I had to stay up and babysit the trade. But I can
Ah,
trade with yeah, I can trade with Asia. So I saw the gold setup. I called the precious metals foreign exchange desk there,
I
and
remember.
I
I
said,
remember this. I mean, we sat there together. We were sitting there together. You were like,
yeah,
"Yo, take a look at gold. Take a look at gold." And I'm like, "Dude, I got so much shit going on over here. I didn't even budge." And boom, sure enough, like we bounced off 2,400, and boom, gold took off before, I think. And then we just shot to the fucking moon, bro.
yeah, that's right. So yeah, I always keep some powder dry. That's a lesson I've learned.
Okay.
I've been through margin calls before. It's definitely not a place I want to go to again.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
so they can be ugly.
Okay. So I guess, I mean, you know, it took you a while to learn how to do this, and these are dangerous places to be in, right? So if you were talking to traders that, you know, generally speaking here, they don't have the amount of powder that you got, they don't, you know, how did you work up to this? How did you sort of work up to this place? I guess what advice could you give to some of the traders that are looking at you and being like, dude, you know, I want to be where he is, you know, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or something like that? What would you,
I'd,
what would you throw out to them?
I'd definitely say when you are looking at a medium-term position, like I was for the ES short, the S&P short,
Right.
make sure to not, to average into your position. So
Right. Right.
start by doing small positions first, and then add as it comes into your favor. So don't shoot all your bullets at once.
Right.
The second piece of advice I would give is that the only thing you can manage is risk. So make sure you manage your risk, know when to get out, and know how much you're gonna lose. I mean, everyone is always focused on I'm gonna make this much on the trade, but no one's focused on I'm going to lose this much if I'm wrong.
Right.
And if you
Right.
just focus on the I'm gonna lose this much if I'm wrong,
Right.
I guarantee you will be 100% better than most of the traders out there. Actually, this is
Right.
a lesson I learned from a great documentary that I saw. You should all watch it.
What do you got?
It was filmed in 1987 at Paul Tudor Jones hedge fund, and you can find it on YouTube. He tried to have it pulled, but he tried to have it pulled, but he didn't manage. So it shows him trading the 1987 crash, and he gives some great advice in that documentary.
You know, and these guys, like, listen, realistically speaking, Paolo is a stone's throw, you know, in the big picture of things, away from being another Paul Tudor Jones or another fucking, you know, whoever you want to talk about. You guys can always get to these fucking levels somehow, some way. Like, don't look at yourself as a trader and compare yourself to this person and get bogged down with the fact that, oh, I'm not there right now, or all this kind of bullshit. You know, so just work on this shit slowly, man. Like, things escalate very quickly in the markets. Let's see. We got another question from Big Paul. How are you so historical / wise to sentiment? And you're so young. Was your family into finance? Were you brought up in the markets? You know, do you have a background in this world? You know, maybe a family office or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah, my dad was. He retired young.
Yeah.
He made a lot of money selling options. He
Writing
lost a lot of
volatility.
money.
Yo,
That's right.
writing volatility back when there was fucking fraction pricing, back. Like, that game was fucking intense, man. Intense, man. And people were
Yeah,
taking out credit to fucking just write more.
it was crazy.
Like, the stories that you must have with your father, man. Jesus Christ, man. I would
Yeah,
love
I
to
mean,
hear some of these stories.
I've been through quite a bit with him. I remember in 2011 when Europe was melting down, he was positioned the wrong way on the Swiss franc, and the Swiss franc kept strengthening. And he was getting margin called, and he asked me. I didn't know much about finance at the time, but I told him, why don't you just close out your positions and buy a call option?
Did he slap
So
you?
that when it's
Like I would have slapped you. Like if you were my son, like I would have smacked the shit out of you right there. I really would.
he listened to me. He listened to me. Did that.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and it turned out to be a really good trade when the Swiss franc turned.
Wow. So that was it right there. That was like the event. That was the moment in your life. That was like a big moment in your life, correct? Like you always remember that moment, right?
Yeah, I'll always remember that moment. I think,
Right.
for me, but I'm always kind of wary of crowds, and I'm always a contrarian by nature. So
Right. That's who we
I,
are,
as I
man.
as I always say, I do much better in certain regimes than others.
Right.
So when there's volatility, I know I can put my skills to use.
Yeah.
And when the market's trending, I should probably go sit on a beach somewhere, sit on my
Right.
hands.
Right. Okay. So is that the next step for you? Is that the next evolution for you? So when are you going to get more strategic with the times that you decide to trade, and then the times that I guess, how much do you work on the other part of your life? That's really what I'm asking, right? It's like, okay, we know we got game, right? And we know certain types of markets we're going to come in here and fucking destroy. But what are we doing during the rest of the time? Like, is that the next evolution for you? Is that what you're looking at as the place where you're like, okay, if I focus on this, I can get to, another level or something like that. Is that something you're thinking about?
It's more thinking about it's difficult for me to stay away from the markets. So, I'll be honest. I'm always on my phone. I have Bloomberg on my phone. I'm always following. Something's
Yeah.
always going on. I love being connected. So
Yeah.
I guess it's more trying to find someone that can teach me how to play the trend following game.
Okay. All right. How much of hedging do you do? Like, I'm kind of getting the feel that there's not much of it. Like
No, there's not much. No.
there's not much. I'm kind of getting the feeling that there's not much of it.
Well, look, I mean, the way I trade, I have a long-term holding of medium to long-term holding of stocks, which I
Okay.
started averaging into over the past few days, and I'll typically trade around that. So,
Okay.
that's why I'm kind of comfortable going short if I'm holding, these stocks long.
Got
So
it.
that's
Got it.
typically my thinking. But I don't mess around with hedges. I'll put a stop.
Right.
This is something else I wanted to mention that you'll find in the documentary as well. Paul Tudor Jones talks about putting stop losses. And when I used to put stop losses and they used to get taken out, I used to take that personally. Like I used to feel like shit. And the trader would call me, I'm very sorry, your stop has been taken out. And I say, fuck, I look like a moron. My analysis was wrong.
Yeah.
And after watching this documentary, I realized, he talks about stops. He says, stops, not a big deal. You get stopped out, you can always re-enter. And something clicked for me, and I said, why am I taking it personally? If a stop gets stopped out, so what? I'll just re-enter. And that was
Right.
really a turning point for me, actually.
Right. Something as simple as that. I mean, guys, we have all kind of had. For me, my turning point was that the losses finally, like if I take a loss just like you, it wasn't a detriment to my character. It wasn't like I didn't have to feel so bad about it. But by the way, like right now at this very moment, Paolo, I feel that, like, I feel every day I come into trade, that's how I fucking feel right now. And I remember that fucking feeling, and I remember how shitty it is and what can happen, like, as a result of it. So now that I'm more aware, I can definitely make better decisions versus just throwing money at it and fucking and just taking all these kind of losses here. So OT's got a question. What couple big things have led to your biggest losses, and what couple things have led to your biggest winners? So I guess let's start with what are the big things that have led to your biggest losses? Was it you not paying? Was it you not just putting a stop on? Like, what was it?
It's me being stubborn.
Exactly. Okay.
So,
Exactly. All right.
as I don't know who it was that said the market can remain trending longer than you can remain solvent. But yeah, that's a very accurate way of putting things.
And guys, this is not anything you haven't fucking heard of. We're not over here talking about rocket science or nothing. Like, Paolo is the same. He's got the same, the same issues that you guys are dealing with. He's just, a slightly more aware, but these things do happen to him. So what couple things have led to your biggest winners?
Biggest winners was generally when I see and what I thought it's an asymmetric bet, so where the risk reward is highly in my favor. So things like this SPY short, I tend to catch one big move a year. That's mainly how I make my alpha. So I caught, for example, the euro short
Yep.
at 140. I wrote it down. I caught the sterling short. But it's always, again, with this contrarian view. So where I position myself against most of the people.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
that's when I know I make my big move. And then, other other uh, other trades are generally smaller intraday type stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. And by the way, guys, I love these conversations like this because it really puts things into perspective. Paolo just said, this shit comes from one or two big trades. If I look at every single great fucking year I had, it's just, I'm staying alive, making a little bit, losing a little bit, making a little bit, losing a little bit. And then 1 month, boom, I'm smoking shit out. Something's clicking. Half of it is just me finding myself. In reality, it's just me finding myself and my connection to the market. Once that happens, bam, we out here making money, So it's so great to have these conversations because I fucking forget that shit every day. Every day I've come into this fucking office, I'm sitting here thinking, I got to make this, instead of just sitting back and just being like, dude, what fucking read do you really have on this shit? Where are you at mentally? Where are you connected here? Why do you feel this way? And this is what's happening to me, So I'm on the flip side of of a lot of folks. And then Norcy here is saying, how do you tackle fear of missing out? Or actually, this is double A: fear of missing out, fear of being wrong, fear of exiting a trade. Like, I'm over here thinking, like, I got people in this office that are fucking crushing it. I got people, some of my friends will hit me up like, yo, how come you not fucking short everything? I let that shit get to me. And I'm like, yo, fuck, man, I got to make some money out here. And because of that, I'm out here making shitty freaking decisions. You know what I mean? And I lost that connection, to myself and to the market. So, as a lesson here for a lot of you folks, you guys are going to find yourself in these periods, just like Paolo does, just like I do. What you do and what you choose to do during those periods will define, your survival, man, your freaking survival out here. And lovely that, I'm not out here freaking losing crazy money. I'm just out here fucking stressed the fuck out. So talk to us a little bit about fear of missing out, fear of being wrong, fear of exiting a trade. Do you get those fears? Do you, how do you manage that shit?
So fear of missing out is thankfully not something that
nice.
Again, I'm not a trend follower, so I don't really get FOMO.
Sure.
Sometimes I'll get the impulse to trade. So it's what you've spoken about. I'll be sitting there, I'll invent a story about what I see on a chart, and I'll put on a trade and lose money just because I'm sitting in front of the screen. So that's something that I'm trying to work on.
Okay.
It's gotten better though.
Okay.
Really, I think the most important thing is don't go chase a trade. Let the trade come to you.
Yeah, man. I'm chasing out here, Paolo. I need you to come over here and smack the shit out of me, bro. Flights are dirt cheap, man. You could probably get on there for $5 at this point.
Yeah, so I mean, when you look at a chart and you start to study it and it starts to tell you a story, then you pay attention. So
okay.
My best trades have been off that. So like for example, the little gold trade yesterday. I just took a look at the chart and I saw what it was saying and I said, okay, we might have something here.
Nice. Okay. Let's take a couple more questions here, and then we'll kill it here. OT is saying, have you ever been all into a trade to the point where it's everything you have to your name? Have you have you gotten to that point? Has that ever happened?
No, it hasn't happened to me. I'm sure though, maybe in my 70s when I'm fed up, it might happen. But for now, I mean, I've had a lot of heavy positions and huge positions go against me, and I've
Sure,
taken huge losses
sure,
that were, you know.
sure.
Yeah, book recommendations. Boy Plunger, the Jesse Livermore story is one of the best
Oh yeah, it's great.
books.
It's fucking great. Honestly, now that I think about it, and now that you threw it out there, bro, like there's a piece of him in you and I, and in a lot of
All of us,
the traders. There's a piece of him in all of us, man. There really is, and that's a fucking amazing book, bro. I'm so glad you mentioned
Yeah,
that.
it's a good book.
So glad you mentioned that one. All right, all right. Let's take one more question, and then we'll close it up. How did you make the transition to trading? Actually, no. Well, Hamza here is saying, were you buying opposite position legs? He doesn't hedge, so he's in there, man. The motherfucker's in there, man. Dave is saying, how did you make the transition to trading bigger dollar amounts? Was it a slow, gradual process, or was it like you were always just used to this because your family was in here, you saw your father do it, were you always kind of used to it, and it just came
It's
natural for you?
it's something that putting on larger size is not really up to you. So the real time to put on larger size is when you feel most uncomfortable doing it,
Wow,
paradoxically. But
interesting.
it's what it's the George Soros trade when he made I don't know 10 billion shorting the pound. So he was talking to his I think it was Druckenmiller at the time. They used to work together,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So Druckenmiller was saying we should short the pound, and Soros was like, "How much do you have on it?" And Druckenmiller said, "A billion." And Soros was like, "You should short 10." you know, and that's how they made their big score. So really,
Jesus,
position
man.
sizing is, when you feel afraid to go in a trade, like when you're buying when the market's red, and sometimes you're questioning yourself, like, what the fuck am I doing? That's probably the
Right.
right trade to do.
Wow, man, dude, I just have to say, I'm so fucking inspired just having this conversation. I'm so glad we did it, bro. And I'm coming to London, man. We doing this thing out in
Yeah,
fucking
let me
London,
know.
man. It's gonna be great, man. It's gonna be great to connect. We'll grab some drinks. We'll get some dinner, man. It'll be dope, man. Any last words here you want to throw out to the folks in here, man?
Well, great community. I'm really happy. I'm getting to know everyone. Um, Thanks for having me. I'm really humbled also to be part of this webinar. I know you guys don't do this often, but yeah, let's have a great year.
Awesome, man. Awesome, man. Actually, OT's got a question that we really want to know the answer to, because
Yeah.
I can't get fucking Wimbledon tickets, man. So I tried last year. I tried a couple years ago. I was at a wedding in Scotland, and there was a dude there at the wedding who actually worked for I don't know, he worked for them or something like that, and he was like, the only tickets that are available were on StubHub, and they were like for $5,000, and he was like, those aren't even real tickets, like nobody can get fucking tickets. We got to hook this up, bro. We got to go to fucking Wimbledon, bro. I gotta go. Have you
We'll
been?
do that. No, I'm not a big tennis fan, but
All right, so you got to do this for
I
us,
know where
man.
to get the tickets.
Yeah, you got to do this for us, man. I'm gonna go over there. We're
All
all
right.
white. We're all white. I'm gonna eat my strawberries and cream, and I'm gonna be there for 2 goddamn weeks. I ain't gonna fucking trade, man. That's it. I'm gonna drink wine all fucking day. That's it. That's what we're doing, bro.
That sounds good to me.
All right, man. Yo, I appreciate you coming on, man. And
Sure. Thanks for having me.
yeah, man, we can't wait for tomorrow, bro. For Monday. For Monday.
Have a good weekend, guys.
All right, brother.
Take care. Bye.
Later.